Hello everyone, welcome back to the Zekko Football channel. Today we are reassessing our Premier League predictions. As you can see in front of you, we have our table right here. These are the previous predictions that I made a couple of months ago. But now we have new information. Teams have played at least one Premier League match. The transfer window is shut, which means everyone's business is complete. And that means that we can now go back and make our final Premier League predictions. We weren't wrong before. No, we weren't wrong. No, but with new information, we can go back and reassess so that we can get it right. That is the main thing. If you know, you know. Before we get into it, if you are new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, you like the video, and turn on those notifications. And just for a moment, I'd like to say thank you ever so much for all the support that has been shown on all of the videos recently. It has really just blown me away, so thank you ever so much. We are really growing something special. It's just absolutely fantastic. Thank you ever so much for subscribing, for liking the video, just for watching. Thank you. Right, let's get into it. These are my bottom three. We have Sheffield United, Luton Town and Wolverhampton Wanderers. There are already a couple of things that I want to do. Unfortunately, we're going to have to change the bottom two teams because Sheffield United, I think, have started actually quite well. I like their transfer business, but I still don't think it's going to be enough to take them out of the bottom three. And Luton. I don't see it. Unfortunately, I really just don't see it. They can't really score goals. They're conceding goals for fun. Defensively, they look a little bit lax, and I just don't think they're going to make it. Moving on, we can see Wolves, Everton and Burnley. I thought Burnley would do far better than they have. Now, albeit, they have had some difficult fixtures, but I think they're being way too naive. I don't really see the goals, and at the same time, I think the tactics need to completely switch. I think with Burnley, they do need to start shutting up shop. They need to make it themselves difficult to beat, and I'm not sure Vincent Kompany can do that. And if he wants to do that, I don't know whether he has the personnel to be able to do it in the short period of time that he has between matches. And for that reason, I actually think I've got Burnley down. And I think I've got Wolves in 16th. Wolves have really impressed me under Gary O'Neill. It was looking extremely bleak, and I mean really bleak, like instant relegation bleak. But Wolves seems to have stabilised. They've got energy, they've got power, they've got a bit of presence. They still can't score goals. No, they still can't. No, but they look quite resolute. And in midfield, once they get a little bit more time together, I do think they will create opportunities. Everton, I still think will survive by the skin of their teeth. I really like the signing of Beto, but letting Alex Iwobi go was criminal for me. Criminal. So for that reason, I think Everton just survive. I think Wolves will be okay, and Burnley drop down. Moving on, we have Bournemouth, Forest and Fulham. All of these teams, I think, are absolutely fine. Nottingham Forest have really shown themselves to be a good force away from home. They were terrible last season, but with their counter-attacking ability, and you know how much we've been talking about in our videos about Nottingham Forest and their ability in the transition to be able to punish teams who come onto them. Forest have been doing great. Fulham are a concern to me, and their idea of dropping down is quite there because of the lack of Mitrovic. However, adding Iwobi into that side, I think, really does give them a solidity, but I'm struggling to see where they score goals past Raul Jimenez. I just don't quite see it. They're going to need a real big team performance to be able to push through. Does Nottingham Forest go above them? I'm not so sure, but Forest really are building something. Bournemouth are going to need to take time to really adapt themselves to the Premier League and the way they want to play, and so that's why I've kept them in 15th. Moving on, we have Crystal Palace, West Ham United and Brentford in 10th. Crystal Palace, I think, have done a sensational job of continuing the way they want to. West Ham have really kicked on and started the season, and I could put them a little bit higher. And you know what? I think I will. I think I will put West Ham one place higher. Brentford, I've been really impressed with, and you never should sleep on Brentford. However, the goals are always going to be an issue when you don't have a player like Ivan Toney in the side. Can they share the goals out amongst themselves enough to be able to compensate for the lack of goal-scoring prowess that Toney has? Remember, he comes back, but I don't think he'll be at Brentford in January. West Ham United have been brilliant, and they've made some fantastic signings. However, when we talk about the way that West Ham are going to play, they're in the Europa League, and eventually their attention will shift. So I think they'll stay around 10th, which is far better than their previous finish, I might add. Moving on, this is what we had previously, we had Brighton Hove Albion, Aston Villa, Newcastle United. I'm quite happy with the way Newcastle are. I do think they're going to struggle in the Champions League somewhat. I think they could get out the group, but with their attention shifted towards the mainstay competition and the reason they were really competing for European football, I do think it's going to mean that their performances in the Premier League are going to suffer somewhat. Aston Villa, I don't think are necessarily going to do as well as everyone thinks. I think Unai Emery's high line is eventually going to really come up against them and is going to cause so many different problems for them. That being said, they have quality in midfield, they have quality up front, and I think they're going to be absolutely fine for the most part. But a trip through Europe, albeit an easier one than some other teams, I think Aston Villa are just going to drop that little bit. Brighton and Hove Albion have been unbelievably impressive, I might add. And that means that they go forwards up the table. I actually think they could finish above Newcastle, and this is the tough one for me. Do I put Brighton ahead of Newcastle, or do I put Newcastle ahead of Brighton? Remember, Brighton have Europa League football. They have something to really consider. It's a tough one. I don't know. Newcastle have a very good squad. Eddie Howe, was he overperforming with that squad? Have they put enough into their team to be able to propel them forwards? And then there's Europe. I'm going to have it the other way around. I just think Eddie Howe, this Newcastle side, their ability to go and spend in January, possibly if they need to. Brighton with Europa League football, I wonder how that squad and their squad depth, or lack thereof, will be affected by Europa League football. It'd be very interesting. Perhaps I'm doing Brighton a little bit dirty there as well, because they have the highest XG in the league. They are playing unbelievable football. It's a tough one. I'm sorry, Brighton fans. I just don't know. I'm sorry. Moving on, we have 6th, 5th and 4th. Oh, this needs a shake-up, doesn't it? Okay, right. Chelsea. Let's talk Chelsea, because they haven't started well. I thought they would. I really thought they would. I've seen them in pre-season, and I thought they would really start to kick on, but there seem to be more problems there for Chelsea. They're not really scoring too many goals. Mauricio Pochettino has some kind of an obsession with playing Ben Chilwell as a left winger when he has other left wingers like £89 million Mykhailo Mudryk. So that's very, very strange. So Chelsea have to come out of 4th for me. Tottenham Hotspur, as Brighton and Hove Albion are doing as well, are playing absolutely sensational football. And for that reason, I actually think with no European football to contend with the harmony that's in that squad, and Heung-min Son being that false nine, as well as the likes of James Maddison and Basuma playing in that side, I think Tottenham could go 4th. Manchester United are a shambles at this current point in time. They have a ridiculous amount of injuries. They have Reguilon, who is on loan. The rest of them are injured. They don't really have a decent centre-back pairing. Previously, they were playing Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire. Then you have a look at their right wing slot. They don't really have a right winger, especially with the confrontation that Jadon Sancho has had with Erik ten Hag, and I just don't see where the goals come from. I don't see where the harmony comes from. And then you have the addition of Champions League football. They're going to be absolutely ripped to shreds by Bayern Munich, and for that reason they drop down into 6th, and they are very fortunate that they are not lower, because they look a shambles at the moment. Chelsea, I think, will stabilise under Mauricio Pochettino, especially going into the January period when they don't have as many games as the other clubs, and they will just maintain their position in 5th, and that could be a Champions League spot depending on how the other teams do in Europe. Moving on, we have our top 3 here. We have Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester City. Do I want to change anything? I don't think I do. Arsenal really impressed me against Manchester United, especially with the way they managed to get that win in the 90th minute. They were fantastic. However, Liverpool's strike force is absolutely terrifying, and if Darwin Núñez is going to start to come to the forefront, I really do think that they will be unstoppable, really. Defensively, they do concern me, which is why I don't think they're going to really make a charge for Man City and that title. But Liverpool are there or thereabouts. Their midfield presence has been rebuilt. Ryan Gravenberch is an absolute star. Then you have a look at Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai, a midfield trio of excellence. Front 3 is fantastic. Mo Salah, Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota. Then you've got Cody Gakpo to be able to link everything up. Liverpool look fantastic. Defensively, there are a couple of question marks, but generally they're there or thereabouts. I don't think they're going to quite challenge Man City, but they will be the closest team to do so. Arsenal, I think Champions League and Europe will really get in their way. They might not think it at the moment, but I really do think they're going to need to make a decision. And in previous times when they've had to make that decision, it hasn't gone well for them. I don't think it'll be a disaster by any stretch of the imagination. I do think they'll be quite close to Liverpool, but I don't think they'll come second. And, of course, we have Manchester City coming top of this Premier League table. Really quick, let's go through the table and just see if I want to make any extra changes. I think I'm quite happy with a lot of the teams and a lot of the positions. This Brighton one is hurting me. It really is. This Brighton one is hurting me. I just don't see the squad depth. Or do I? Do I do that? Do we do that? Is that realistic? Brighton play some of the best football in the Premier League and arguably some of the best football in Europe. Is that realistic? How far are Newcastle going to go in the Champions League? I believe they can get out of the group, but if they get out of the group and they go into the knockout rounds, that's going to be more football, and it's also going to be more times that they're going to need to rotate their squad for both Premier League and Champions League action. Manchester United, could they go 8th with the way that they're playing? There is no harmony in that squad. They barely have any players, and then you've got the increased expectancy on Rasmus Højlund. It's tough. It's tough. I just think Newcastle will be stretched. I think Brighton will be stretched as well. I'm going to stick Brighton in 8th. I think they've climbed one place. I'm still a little concerned about the squad depth overall, but they play fantastic football. I'm sorry, Brighton fans. I'm sorry. And generally, this is my Premier League table. These are the final Premier League predictions. But my question to you is, what are your Premier League predictions? Let me know your 20-1 down in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think and what your Premier League predictions are. So get them down in the comments. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. And I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care.